Welcome to the third episode of this video essay. In this part of the essay, we will have our attention drawn to the United States Constitution, especially from the point of view of how it was informed by certain Enlightenment era ideas. The focus is on a very specific idea, and this is the idea that I think everyone in modern society is more or less familiar with, and this is the idea of separation of powers: legislative, executive and judiciary powers. The idea behind this separation is to prevent unhealthy concentration of power by providing checks and balances. Each branch should have a power to limit or to act as a controller of other branches. So it is to keep tabs or monitor the other branches, and if needed, actually to intervene in order to limit the power of other branches. So this is not just an idea that the Enlightenment era, the 18th century, embraced. Before this time there had already been other cultures and societies who have made similar attempts when it comes to having different powerful fractions within the society. And there are historical records of these attempts. If we go back to Enlightenment era, I think it was Montesquieu who probably had the most well-defined presentation of this basic idea. In United States, its principles were included in the Constitution, and this was largely due to the influence of Alexander Hamilton. There's nothing new in these facts. These are familiar facts to anyone who is interested in this topic and interested in politics. For the people of the rest of the world, those who are not from Europe or United States, if you want to understand why do I focus so much on American Constitution, here is the reason. To a certain degree, it can be said that American Constitution became almost like a gold standard, or the most complete presentation of this idea. Its immediate cultural and societal influence elsewhere was huge, and it still continues to have social, cultural, political influence in today's world, in modern-day liberal democracies. If you want to understand the full scope of immediate effect that this constitution and this division of powers that was included in it had, just think of it. This constitution was finished, I think it was 1787, and French Revolution began 1789. That was only 2 years after the constitution was done. So there certainly was admiration and looking to this document when revolution started as a something that could be repeated in France also. And if you want to understand what I mean by this, that it's gold standard, it sort of like sets the standard for anything else, let me give you historically closer examples which give a better understanding of what cultural and societal influence could be. After the Second World War, the United Kingdom was a frontrunner on many issues. They established BBC, they established NHS, which is the local health services system, and both of those things were sort of like applied more or less following the guidelines of these institutions in the rest of the Western Europe. So what I'm talking about here is similar kind of like cultural and social influence. The people behind the basic principles of constitution were not only informed by Enlightenment ideas. I would say that these people were very pragmatic in their approach to these Enlightenment ideas. In a way, people who were behind the United States Constitution, they probably thought that it makes sense to create a societal structure that deals with different power concentrations within their society, and deals with it in a skillful way. Keep an eye on different parts of society which have power. And after you hold tabs, you monitor, and if you see something suspicious, you limit the power concentration from outside. Now, the next question, of course, is coming back from Enlightenment era and French Revolution era. How has this principle then worked for us over the centuries? What can we learn from this principle of division of power in regards to the year of reign of terror during the French Revolution? How the year of terror relates to this principle of checks and balances of different power concentrations inside the society. Looking at the situation, the 10-year period, and how the revolution sort of ended in a disastrous situation, for me it seems it was very easy for these ideas of checks and balances to get lost. We also have to get back to the themes that we were talking about in the previous episode. The themes of collective paranoia and its prerequisites, and the idea that dreams of reason are able to produce something monsterly. So there are these two things: collective paranoia, and behind it fear, anger and hatred, and a sort of a fever dream of reason. In both of these cases, what we're dealing with is that if there is a reason to believe that there are a group of people who are seen as enemies, and these enemies, of course, in general population, they arise fear, hatred, anger. In a very disturbing way, it does make sense to make administrative efforts to have some kind of final solution in how to deal with them. And when we talked about American Constitution, that there was skillfulness in there. It made sense. There was healthy pragmatism. But in the same way, you could say that in a way it makes sense to make administrative efforts to have some kind of final solution to how to deal with the enemies of revolution. Whether it's concentration camp, whether it's prison, whether it's gulags or guillotine. The other thing that is important to keep in mind from the previous episode is that there is political manipulation that has been done by power holders, using for political ends the human heart's tendency to vilify and to dehumanize perceived enemies. The committee that was behind the Year of Reign of Terror, that this propensity of human heart to vilify real or imagined enemies was utilized for political gain. So these two things are kind of like pathological possibilities of where collective can go. And what we have learned so far, it seems that they are in no way exterior to the possibilities of where normal democratic society can go. They are rather one set of rather unfortunate outcomes of where society, a democratic society, can end up. And let's raise our sights a bit higher, apply a little bit more abstract point of view. And I'm also using a metaphor here. I'm warning you that the next thing is a metaphor that tries to encapsulate something essential about what we have been talking about. We can look at this construct of separation of powers as a triangle in your mind's eye. Look at the triangle in your mind's eye, in which legislative, executive and judiciary form the three angles of this triangle of Western democracies. What we perhaps need to think about is that maybe it is possible that the triangle is actually a triangle-based pyramid. What if the triangle actually always was and always is a triangle-based pyramid? That this triangle has actually a third dimension, largely fuzzy, imaginary fourth angle, in which these undemocratic tendencies or trends or urges dwell. The urge of hatred, anger and fear and societal paranoia. And then on the other hand, some kind of fever dream of reason that has, gone beyond its healthy boundaries. And the problem for us as Westerners is that we have not been that well aware of them. We have not been fully aware of what kind of danger they pose to our liberal democracies. So for now, before we go any further, it's enough if you have hopefully started to see that what we have called in the beginning of this this essay, the forces of strife and discord. That you finally start to see them as a figure or shape, which has a more clear form. But by this time they have more contours, and by this time we now have a clue about the essence of the shape of figure of the thing that we are talking about. So for now it's just enough for you to understand that there is a dimension that we're barely understanding, in which the presence of reason has gone crazy. Reason has transgressed its healthy boundaries. And on the other hand, in that same angle of pyramid triangle, there are these calculated attempts to utilize fear, anger and hatred as a resource to boost political career. That's all for today. In the next episodes, we will have a deeper look at the 19th century and 20th century forms for this dark fourth angle. And here we are, of course, talking about and we'll be tackling the issue of essence of Soviet communism, Mussolini's fascist regime, and the rise of the Hitler's Third Reich. But for now, that's all. So if you have liked this video and liked the way that I'm thinking and trying to drive my thought forwards, please press that button of subscribing, because that way you will be informed when my next video comes. And if you don't want to do that yet, you can always press the like button. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And I see you in the next episode.